Welcome to Science You Had Me at Hello. Greenlight for Girls presents to you this broadcast series where we ask awe-inspiring role models to tell us that one moment, that spark, that apple falling off the tree epiphany, where they knew that science and their being were inexplicably intertwined. These are stories told live. They're designed to encourage you to think about what inspires you, to begin to contemplate your future, and to create some ideas on how you can get there. There are future scientists, engineers, mathematicians, programmers, inventors, curiosity-driven leaders out there, and we believe that you are one of them. We've invited onto the stage amazing speakers. In a moment, they're going to share the spark that inspired them. So, what are we all curious about in today's episode? Let's find out. Science, you had me at hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Science You Had Me at Hello. I'm Emily Weiner. I'm going to be moderating today's session. I'm Chief of Staff at Greenlight for Girls, and I'm so excited to see you all on the screen today. If you feel comfortable, I encourage you to turn on your cameras, but leave your microphones muted for now so that we can hear from our amazing speakers to start. I really want to give a shout out today. I see a bunch of students. Hello, Channing School students. I see you right there. We've also got some amazing students here from the Alexander Park School in London. Thank you for being with us, whether you're in your classroom or your home, wherever you are in the world right now or on your journey. Thank you for spending some time at the end of your school day with us. I'm really excited to hear from all of our guest speakers today, but more importantly, quite frankly, I'm excited to hear from all of you. And I can't wait to hear from you, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the podcast. So before I actually get to hear your voices, maybe if you're feeling up for it, I know it might be a little bit harder in the classroom there, but if somebody might be willing to get up and get closer to that screen and type in the chat for me a word or a phrase about how you're feeling right now. And I realize it's the end of your school day, so maybe you're tired, maybe you're hungry, maybe you're hangry for that matter, I don't know. But maybe you're also feeling curious or excited. I will tell you that I am currently feeling energized. So I am coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts in the United States, and we have people from across so many different countries on the line right now. And the reason I'm energized is because I love talking with people from across the world about their possibilities, their next steps, and the potential that we all have to do great things for ourselves and for other people. So before I introduce my special guests from AIG, thank you for being here today. I want to let you know about some other people that we have on the line and other resources that we have available. And you'll meet them more formally during the broadcast, but maybe if you all can just give a little wave while we're here. Some of my fellow colleagues and team members from Greenlight for Girls, G4G, we have our amazing Alex on the line, and you'll be hearing from her in our design session in a little bit. Pooja. Let's say hello. Astea, Alexis is here, and Deborah, who's coming to us all the way from Cote d'Ivoire. And so our team is spread way across the globe, but all of us are here with the ability. I did get Astea in there, right? Yes, I did actually. All here in support of you. And you'll see everybody a little bit more when we get into our breakout rooms and our sessions in a little bit. So we're here with our global partner, AIG. And as I think about AIG and their everyday work of bringing science and research into measuring risk, I can't help but think about today's theme and the word potential. What does potential actually mean? So I have a definition up here, and I want to be really clear with you right now that your teachers are going to be really cross with me that I am quoting Wikipedia. But here we are. And so I saw this because I thought it was just so good to explain all the different ways we might think about the word potential today. So potential generally refers to a currently unrealized ability. The term is used in a wide variety of fields, from physics to the social sciences, to indicate things that are in a state where they are able to change in ways ranging from the simple release of energy by objects to the realization of abilities in people. And as a social scientist myself, I think that unlocking of our potential inside of ourselves is really so intriguing and so exciting. I think we also can't forget the scientific background and possibilities that come in potential. So thank you, Alex. I wanted to share that on the screen too, because I thought that definition was too good not to share. We all have potential inside of us that's just waiting to be uncovered. Maybe for each of you on this line, as I look around, your potential is about maximizing your abilities in math or science. Maybe it's in art, maybe it's in sport. Maybe you have no idea and can't really think about a picture of what your potential might look like. So what I've learned over the years is that potential is both inside of us, but it's also all around us. And the way that you move from potential to something actual is by doing something, by taking action. But how do you even begin to think about taking that action? How do you move from potential to actual? And sometimes the best way to discover and unlock your potential is to talk to others and find out how they did it for themselves. So with that, I'd love to welcome our special guests to the stage. Thank you all for being here. And we'd love to hear from you and find out how you think about that word potential and how you maybe started to discover it inside of yourselves. So let me introduce to you, first up, we have Laura Hunt, who is the Chief Information Officer at AIG, which means that her role is about all things IT, which I'm so curious about, and I'd love to hear more about. Laura has over 20 years of experience in the technology industry, working across 3 continents, way cool, and is an active mentor, especially for women in tech. Laura, thank you for being here. I'll introduce your 2 colleagues, and then I'll turn it over to you, Laura, to kick us off. Next up, we have Anna Lother. Anna, hello. Thank you so much for being here. Anna is a driven and versatile undergraduate who started, underwriting graduate, sorry about that, I mixed my words there, who started working in July at AIG. So you're also pretty new to the organization. In addition to working on the cyber team, she has a first-class master's in marine biology and strives to join her passions for sustainability and the insurance sector to progress corporate climate responsibility. And I happen to know that she has some pretty cool ocean stories, and being an ocean girl myself, I can't wait to hear about that a little bit later. And last and certainly not least, we have Ellie Jakes. Ellie, welcome back. We've engaged with you on some of our programs before. We're thrilled to have you back here. Ellie is a cyber underwriter working at AIG in London and provides insurance to corporations to protect them in the event of a cyber incident. Sounds very spooky and like Mission Impossible-esque. I love that. Ellie has a chemistry background from Oxford and is a published author in Nature Synthesis. So very, very cool. Thank you to the 3 of you for being here today, and we're excited to learn from you. Laura, maybe we can start with you, and I'll ask you to kick us off. Can you mind introducing yourself a little bit more, sharing what you do at AIG, if there was a moment of inspiration that maybe helped you uncover your own potential in your career or for your future? And then I think maybe, I don't know, I think we all have objects that you might have brought, an object of significance that maybe you can share a little bit of the story behind that. So Laura, let's start.
Sure, thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join a session like this as well. So as Emily said, Laura, I'm the Chief Information Officer. I think the key question I get in my role is, what does that mean? So as explained, all things IT. Today in a business world, technology underpins everything we do, even in insurance, which is quite old-fashioned at times, particularly in the London market where I'm based in London. Technology is everywhere. We're talking to you today via technology. You've probably seen quite a change even in your school time, the way that we use technology. So it's really key in everything we do. And my responsibility is to make sure all the systems that we use day to day, our computers, our phones, our email, etc., run and work and continue to support the business. But I'm also responsible for looking at where technology can be an enabler. So where we can grow our business using e-trade. You may be aware of websites that you can go to buy insurance, for example, things like that. That's what we look to build and develop, but also where it can help the business. So we're doing a lot at the moment around robotics and machine learning with technology and looking at data sets. So looking at large information sets and what can we discover from that data. So that's really around data scientist type roles as well. So all of that falls into my remit. I'm responsible for the UK. There's over 2,000 users in the UK. And as a gross written premium, we're in the $4 billion mark. So it's a pretty substantial size that we look after here. So that's a bit about me and my role. I've come from a slightly different background to some of my peers. So I've worked in technology for over 20 years now, but for the last 5 years, I actually spent time in a similar role to Ellie and Anna. I was a cyber underwriter. I actually ran the division for cyber. So I was on the business side and I was underwriting risk, which means looking at these risks, assessing whether they were going to be a good risk or a bad risk and pricing them and binding the business. And I built a team around that. So I have that business knowledge as well as the technology knowledge. And the reason for doing that is quite interesting around understanding your potential is it's quite an unusual move, I'll be honest. The underwriting track is very structured. You go in as a junior and you work through years of experience to get to a head level. And I kind of leapfrog over that and went straight to a head level. And the reason for that is because I had transferable skill set and people realized my potential. Now, what I could do is apply all that technical knowledge and my business knowledge into an underwriting role. And realizing that potential was daunting at first, to say I was going to go from something I'd done for essentially 15 years. I knew technology inside out. I had a big team. I had 60 plus people in my team, to go into a completely new job role and learn all again. I had to learn so much about underwriting, about the relationships that you have across the business and clients and brokers. So it was an interesting time. I think it's very specific to understanding your potential, because your career path isn't always linear. There's opportunities that will come up, even when you're as old as me. These opportunities come up and you think, well, that's not the path I expect to go to get to the top, which is where I wanted to be. I always knew I wanted to be at the board table, so to speak. But that was a great opportunity for me to realize my potential, gain a really broad knowledge, and then bring it to my role at AIG as Chief Information Officer.
Wonderful, thank you. I don't know if you have an object with you.
So my object, slightly cliche, I guess. So it's my phone, basically. So the reason my iPhone is it's an enabler. It's such an important part of my day. Not to be on social media all the time, though that is an amazing tool for social networking, for staying in touch, particularly with family and friends. As mentioned before, I've traveled a lot, so I know a lot of people across the world, but I can run pretty much my whole business day from my phone if I have to. I can also contact my family, and I can also use it as a book, as Netflix. It's just an amazing device that brings everything, brings all parts of my life, business, personal, and my downtime, as well as work calls like this, in one place. So a very key portal, shall we say, to everything in my life.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Ellie, can I invite you to be the next one to share a little bit about yourself, what you do at AIG, that moment of inspiration that you might have had around your own potential, and your object too, because I'm excited about that.
Yes, of course. So hi everyone, I'm Ellie. I work as a cyber underwriter at AIG. Laura has touched on a little bit on what that role entails, as that is part of her background as well. But yeah, basically we're looking at different corporations and companies around the globe and looking at sort of the controls that they have in place in terms of information security and how quickly they can get back up and running if they had a cyber attack and they had to shut the business completely down and start building up from scratch again, and really look at all those different elements and then sort of decide if we would like to provide them with some insurance and sort of take on some of that risk ourselves. So I won't go into the ins and outs of it, but basically that's what insurance is. It's the transfer of risk to an insurance company. So in terms of moment of inspiration, so for me, I grew up in a small northern town in the UK, and in terms of job prospects, there really wasn't much going on there. There was we had a huge steelworks, so there was a lot of people that went straight from school to go work in the steelworks. But for me, that isn't something I wanted to do. I think I always knew that I wanted to end up at university, but I wasn't ever really quite sure what my options would be after that. But I was very fortunate that my gran loved West End musicals, so she would occasionally take myself and my sister down to London on a little day trip. We'll go see a matinee and come back up. And for me, like, just being in the city of London, and it might seem really silly for a lot of you girls that actually already live in London, but for someone who's from a small town up north, like that whole buzz of the city life, seeing people on the tube, trying to navigate your way around using public transport, seeing people in their like business suits and you know, looking like, you know, they've got a place to be. And I just really loved that energy. And I think it was from that moment that I was like, right, I one day would love to work in the city in London. Like, I just knew like it would be amazing how to get that to happen. So I think when I was 15, I actually like redecorated my bedroom. It's really sad actually, but I redecorated my bedroom. It's like all London themed. I had like London duvet sheets and everything, and like little like canvases of like Tower Bridge on my bedroom wall. Like it's it probably sounds really daft to a lot of you, but I feel like I kind of manifested this for myself now. Now I'm living and working in London, and I love it. So yeah, it's not I guess it's not related specifically to inspiration for my career, but I knew that this environment was something that I was really keen to try. And in terms of my object, I've got a little bit more old school compared to Laura. I've brought my planner, which is very pretty. It's pink and red. Sadly, you can't watch Netflix on it. But I bought this planner earlier in the year, and it's honestly changed my life. I don't know if I'll be able to show you the pages very easily, but it kind of, no, oh, there we go. No, you're not gonna be able to see it very well. But it really helps you to like break down your tasks and like get sort of everything. Sometimes you get overwhelmed with, if you've got a lot of things going on, it's really hard to know like what to do first and what order to prioritize things with. And this planner is really great because it kind of, you can split things into quick ticks where you can just tick things off in 5 minutes, or maybe tasks that take up to 30 minutes or projects that take a bit longer. And there's a nice handy bit along the side where you can like write down your schedule for the day. And I've always been a pen to paper kind of person. Like that's what my university experience was, my school experience. We never did things on laptops. So I've always loved like the feeling of just ticking something off a to-do list. So that was my object for today. But yeah, that's me. That's my background.
I love that. And yes, I love a good complete to-do list too. Yes, I'm seeing that in the chat. Definitely, Alex. I love that because I think a lot of times, again, when we think about where we get inspiration for our potential, you have lived into your potential. You saw the potential of maybe it wasn't this specific career, but you knew you wanted to be in London. You knew what you wanted to cultivate and curate for yourself. And you've now been able to build that in your professional and, quite frankly, your personal life. And so I love that sometimes it's not a very specific competency or skill that we have, but it's maybe just a desire or a passion or all of that. And so we're going to ask all of you to start thinking about that soon, because I want to introduce Anna, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Alex, who's going to help us lead through an idea of how we might begin to tap into those parts of us that are most exciting and igniting. But before that, Anna, can you share with us a little bit about what you do at AIG, that moment of inspiration for you and your object, because that's equally cool.
Hi girls, yeah, so I'm Anna. So I've just started at AIG after having finished my 4 years at uni this summer, and I graduated with my marine biology degree. So from a day-to-day, it's slightly more different from my degree. So I'm helping out with administrative functions in the business and also training to learn how to analyze risks to then one day be able to become a cyber underwriter myself, like Ellie and Laura. And yeah, just using my potential currently. So as well as training and doing admin, I'm spending time researching, asking questions, and yeah, just being very curious to further my development into eventually reaching that underwriter role. But in terms of my moment of inspiration, I'm going to bring it back, like Emily said, with a bit of an ocean story. So basically when I was 14, I was snorkeling on holiday, and yeah, so there were some sharks around us, which I found absolutely fascinating. But more importantly, what I really focused on was these two tiny little shrimp and a very small fish. And the shrimp were basically burrowing out a big hollow in the ground, so essentially making their own cave. And it was very, very small, and it was all in the sediment. And the fish was just lying outside. And I thought, that's so odd that they're living, so close to each other. So I sort of disrupted the water a bit to see what would happen. And so interestingly, that little fish tapped both of the shrimp and they both went inside the cave. And I thought, that is so weird. Like, how are they sharing an environment? They're two completely different species. And so I waited there for them both to come out, and the shrimp carried on making the hole, just picking up the sand and putting it outside, and the fish just lied there. And I moved it again and the exact same thing happened. And I just thought that was so fascinating. So yeah, then later that day, I went to go read like a fish ID book to see, the sort of creatures that I've been seeing that day. And I realized that that was a mutualistic relationship that I had just witnessed. So the shrimp can't see. So basically what they had was this fish there to protect them, sort of as a guardian from any sort of predators around. So the shrimp would make the house for the fish, and the fish would then in turn protect it. And I thought that was so interesting, the communication between two different animals from under the water. So yeah, since coming home after that holiday, I was so invested. I'd watch YouTube videos, I'd watch documentaries, I would go to aquariums, I would try and get out into the ocean as much as I could. And this really helped me to sort of realize my potential, because before I even knew it, I had learned so much about marine biology just through that intellectual curiosity. So this potential has sort of come with me into my career, because it's taught me that I can be a hard worker and I can learn so much when I'm interested in a subject. So yeah, really that very small interaction helped me to uncover my potential, and yeah, just keep asking questions and become interested in a topic to be able to it's something that I carry with me every day. So in terms of my object, I've got this little pen. Oh, can you see? It basically says Pro Dive on it. So earlier this summer, after I finished my research project on corals for my master's, I got the opportunity to go out onto the Great Barrier Reef for a few days with this company called Pro Dive. And it was just an absolutely brilliant experience to be able to be on the Great Barrier Reef after having studied it. And yeah, I can just use this day to day, because I always need a pen. A pen is very important to have with me to stay organized. And it just reminds me about, my passion in sustainability and being able to bring that into what I do today.
Fabulous. Anna, thank you so much. And I love that your inspiration came at really right around the same time frame as most of the girls we have on our line with us today. So thank you for that. We love your planners and your pens. I'm right there with you. I've got all the planners and pens here along with me. With that, I'm going to move us along. Alex, can you help us get through an exercise that will help us get a little bit more creative as we start to think about our own potential?
Oh, yes. It's so inspiring to hear all of the stories on the line. Thank you guys so much. And I want to invite everyone, before we go into that exercise, just to do a little stretch, to reach your arms up. Oh, and go to the left and go to the right. Oh, give that a good little stretch and shake it out, because I know you guys have all had a great day before jumping on this line, and maybe you didn't take a moment to stretch. And what we're going to do in this next exercise is actually going to just get back in touch with who we are and our senses and our environment. So if you don't already have a piece of paper and a pen next to you, just take a moment and go get one. Because what I want to do is we want to harness all of that great inspiration that we heard from Laura and Ellie and Anna, and channel that back into ourselves, because today is about you, and we're going to hopefully hear more about your stories very soon. So what I'd like you to do is actually put on your dreamer hat, put on your innovator hat, and close your eyes. And in a moment, I will pull up a screen, but I want you just to visualize. Just take a moment, close those eyes, take a deep breath in, and visualize in 5 years, where would you love to be? And imagine, what would you be standing on? What kind of environment would you be in? Maybe you'll be on a beach with wind whipping through your hair. Maybe you'll be in the water. Maybe you're going to be in a library studying. Maybe you'll be in a chemistry lab. Just imagine and now smell. What would that smell like? Maybe, hopefully, maybe something good, like, I don't know, I would want burgers, ice cream, something good. And then what would that sound like? Would you hear anything special? Take one more moment and look around you and just take note of a few things. You don't have to do anything, just keep your eyes closed. What would that look like? And now I want you to open your eyes. Come back. Even though that 5 years in the future sounds really good, you might not know all the things that you're seeing, right? But hopefully you've identified just a few key points in that dream environment that you could be in. And what we would love for you to do is to also put that into a drawing. Now, sometimes your dream environment, and for me, maybe my dream environment, I'm thinking about the top of a mountain. I've always wanted to climb Kilimanjaro. So when I picture this, I picture myself at the top of the mountain. That doesn't necessarily lead to a career in mountaineering, but it speaks to my sense of adventure and that I love to travel. So I want you to think about how your environment, your ideal environment, could relate back to the things that are most important to you and that you really value. And for those questions to come out in a drawing. So think about where you like to spend time, and more importantly, what activates you, what brings you joy, and what in that environment really spoke to those things, right? So maybe you've already done this exercise, but we're going to just take just 2 minutes, and I want you guys just to draw as much as you can on a piece of paper that speaks to where that dream job could be and what it looks like and what it means to you. And before we go into those 2 minutes, are there any questions? I think everybody feels good. Helen, you're good. Everybody's there. All right, I'm going to put on some music. You've got 2 minutes. Go. All right, pencils down. Now, of course, you know what comes next. We obviously need to ask you a little bit about what these drawings looked like. So if we can invite you to turn your cameras on. And I'd love if I could actually ask Helen, is there anybody in the class that wants to be brave enough to come to the front of the camera and share a little bit about what they drew?
Okay, Tabby, what does it show?
It's the city.
It's the city. Yeah, and?
Is it London or is it another city?
Yeah, it's supposed to be London.
Right, are you going to do building engineering or finance?
Finance in a skyscraper in London. Skyscraper. Yeah.
Very practical. Very good. So what value did that speak to when you closed your eyes? Was it, what did you see? Did you see yourself in a financial institution or something else?
Yeah, the finance was just in 100%, yeah.
100%. Okay, wow. Gosh, I wish I had 100% when I was your age. Cool. Is there anyone else from the class? Can I invite one more from the class to share? Very good. Simple can be good. What did that say? Because it's a little bit small for us to see.
I said I wanted to be at uni studying mechanical engineering.
Chemical engineering. Oh, very good. And what inspired you to think about chemical engineering as your future?
Mainly the subject that I like at school, but also it's just I know where I want to be.
And what mentioned the cars?
Oh yeah, I want to work in F1.
Oh.
You want to work where?
Formula One.
Formula One. Oh. Okay, we might be able to hook you up. We might know some people. That's so cool. Oh, very good. Thank you, guys. And I think, Emily, we have room for one more, maybe.
Oh, girl. Oh, girl.
Maybe some of the other students, Rebecca, Linda, Susanna, Natasha. Does anybody want to share? That's okay. Maybe I can ask Anna, actually, if they're, what did you draw?
Being put on the spot and for a terrible drawing.
Oh, you know it.
So, okay, I don't know if you can make it out. This is a computer with some like the C on it. Oh my gosh, this is so difficult. Okay, so I got a computer with the mouse, and I drew some graphs, so sort of showing risk, and also a marine environment and some renewable energy. So I'm still a bit unsure on how, but yeah, just sort of still want to continue both my passions in being able to do sort of cyber underwriting, but also keeping in mind my big interest for sustainability, and maybe one day sort of getting involved in employee resource groups to help corporate climate responsibility forward.
Amazing. I mean, you're so much in that environment already. That's such a great start. And I'm going to turn this back to Emily in just a minute, but just one last thing, if everybody can hold up their drawing, just I know Pooja's thinking about our comms, so if you can hold up your drawing. Laura, did you do it on your phone? Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Great. And with that, Emily, let's turn back to you.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was so fun. And I'm very impressed with all of your drawings, because I don't know that you can see mine, but my stick figures are terrible. You all have such great ability. And I love that you're starting to think about this as your potential. I want to ask our three guests to answer just a couple of more questions for us. And then we're going to have the opportunity to go into some smaller virtual breakout rooms where you'll have the chance to be one-on-one with either Laura, Anna, or Ellie, so that you can ask those questions. Just a little bit of housekeeping for all of us. We're recording this main session right now, but don't worry. We're not going to put anything on social media that you don't want us to see or anything along those lines. We appreciate your brave ability to share during that last session. Also, when we go into those breakout rooms, those will not be recorded. This is your chance to ask any question you want, and there is no question too silly, too big, too small. This is a chance to share what's on your mind, and let's use this entire group that's in the room to help you think through any ideas and potential that you have for your future. But before we jump in there, just really quickly, I want to come back to our speakers and ask a couple of questions. Laura, I'm going to start with you, because you mentioned a little bit, you teed up a little bit that you've had an interesting and maybe not quite a linear pathway. And I think what's fascinating for me is you actually left school after your GCSEs, right? And I think a lot of times when we think about our potential and we think about our future careers, we think that there's only one pathway to get there. And in fact, there can be a lot of different pathways and a lot of different ideas. I want to be on the ocean too. Anna, you and I are kindred spirits in that way. And that's an important part for me when I think about any of my potential in my future. You had some ideas probably when you were 15 years old. And I think it's fascinating to me. So I'm hoping you'll share a little bit about, if you think back, it was a long time ago for both of us. If you think back to when you were 15, what did you want to be when you grew up? And is that, I can imagine the answer to this question, but is it even remotely close to what you are doing now?
No, not quite. I guess I didn't know what insurance was, certainly. So I'm actually from Jersey in the Channel Islands, a very small island. It's a lot of banking, but big insurance companies are not really a thing there. Insurance companies are not really a thing there. So at 15, I was very focused on an engineering track. I think, my paths were building bridges or going to NASA. They were kind of the aspiration of what I wanted to do. I thought initially I was going to go through the education track, go to university, But it soon became clear through various different reasons, both personal and what was going on at my school at the time, that that wasn't right for me. I learned through doing. So I'm very practical and very hands-on. And my father's an engineer as well. So, you know, I learned a lot through being in more of a vocational study. And after my GCSEs, which went pretty well, I was looking at my options, and the track that the options I had at my school at that time were not supportive to a STEM career. To the point that I was told I couldn't actually do physics, maths, and technology because they were too similar, which is thankfully there's programs like this now, and that kind of attitude has changed. But at that point I said, this isn't right for me, this isn't what I want to do, it's not how I learn. So I was actually running a small business at the time as well, doing something completely different. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. So I ended up doing vocational studies on IT, because I could use some of that engineering skill set. I went straight into the closest thing from an IT perspective is network engineering, so building networks and things. But what I knew I wanted to do was I like building things and I like fixing problems. So that's pretty broad across the engineering, mathematics, technology track. And I fell into IT, and I loved it. I knew what I picked it up very quickly. A lot of it was learning on the job, so to speak, through apprenticeships and that type of thing. And I got into a role very quickly. So I got into work very quickly. And I learned so much during the early years of my employment, but it's also a track where you do a lot of additional learning whilst you're working. So it's professional qualifications. As I'm sure you'll appreciate, in technology, it changes all the time. So qualifications I did back then are not relevant now. You have to keep doing them. So you're always learning. And that interested me as well, because I wasn't going to go stale. I've got to keep interested in something to be excited. And my father once said to me, and it's advice I always kind of pass on as well, is do something you're interested in, because you're going to be much better at it and you'll enjoy it in the process. So that's how I ended up in IT. Insurance came a little bit further down the line, but working in IT it goes across pretty much every sector out there, including things like farming, sustainable farming now as well. So, you know, there really is a path into every type of sector. Some of the things that Anna's been talking about around being sensitive to climate change, you know, technology underpins all of that. So, yeah, I had a broad experience in terms of industry segments that I worked in, and landed, as we all do by accident, in insurance. But there's a whole world of opportunities in insurance.
Amazing. Thank you. And then maybe since you just referenced Anna, I'm going to bounce it over to you, if that's okay. And you self-describe, I would say, I was delighted to hear, as driven and versatile. And those are some really important qualities that you have. How did those qualities, or are there other qualities that you have that helped you think about your own potential? Are there any certain elements of your qualities and your background that made you unlock a little bit more about this potential you have?
I think I was, very lucky to have those skills that I could develop, because I reached a point when I was deciding which university to go to. So my dream was always Southampton University to do my master's in marine bio. And my teachers told me, you can't do it, don't do it. And because of my potential and sort of having that driven mindset, that versatile mindset, I knew in myself, actually, I'm hearing this authority, but I know in myself that I have that ability. I'm driven, I can do this. And those people that knew me around me, luckily I could use as a sounding board, who also sort of affirmated that, yes, like I can do this. And it was a very difficult thing to do at the time, sort of standing up to my teachers and saying, you're telling me not to, but you know, I believe in myself, I have this potential, I'm gonna go for it. And I managed to get in, and it was the best 4 years of my life. And I came out with a first class honours in that marine biology degree. So, you know, that driven mindset, that unlocked potential just really helped me have the absolute best time. And it's just really believing in yourself. Like, it's so corny to say, like, I know, but you know yourselves best. So don't ever let anyone tell you you can't do what you want to do. And like, yeah, you don't need anyone to give you that green light to pick what you want to do and follow those dreams.
Thank you, Anna. And that's very on brand with Green Light for Girls, because the reason we are a green light is green means go, and we all just go. And all of us on this line have had someone tell us we can't. And when life and the world tells us we can't, we are the community of people that reminds each other that we can, and we will, and we do. So that's amazing. Thank you. And then Ellie, maybe picking up on that theme, we've heard a couple of themes here of people saying, you can't do that, and it's driven you to do a little bit more. And maybe you have a similar story, or do you have any sort of advice that you received or anyone believing in you along the way that helped you unlock your own potential, positive or negative, I guess, in that, feel free to answer however you'd like.
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, obviously my background is Oxford, but Oxford was never really a realistic, when I was younger, I never thought that would be a realistic ambition. You know, I went to a standard state school in a small town. You know, we didn't have the best academic results as a school. You kind of think places like Oxbridge, you know, people who have, you know, maybe a higher quality of education or a wealthier background, or know certain people are going to, you know, have, they're the only people that are going to get spots there. But it wasn't until sort of year 11, basically there was a few schools within the town where they sort of picked a couple of students from each school that showed that higher potential to maybe have Oxbridge as a realistic goal, and they sort of took us all on a little trip down to Oxford and Cambridge just to see them and just, I guess, be able to visualize the reality of actually going to a place like that. So I think that organization and those teachers within those schools really helped me to realize that this could be a realistic goal for you. And then it was from that moment that I was thinking, right, you know, that's going to be what I aim for. I don't think I'm going to get it. Even when I got to interviews and got to the interview stage, I went down and I just tried to have fun, because I thought I'm not going to be coming down ever again. I just want to meet people and have a good time, because you stay there for a few days for interviews. So when I actually got the offer to go, it was it was a huge shock. But I mean, in terms of general advice, I think seeking opportunities and being open-minded is a real key thing. And something I got told in an assembly when I was 15 was, you know, a lot of the jobs that you're all going to be working in 10 years' time are not even invented yet. So, you know, you can't even imagine what opportunities might be there in 5-10 years' time. You know, even 10-20 years ago, you know, the cyber insurance market, you know, it was only just starting out in its infancy, and now it's like one of the largest growing areas in insurance. So I think, yeah, just being open-minded to different opportunities, and don't be afraid to move horizontally. That's what I did. You know, I started out in insurance in a different area, and then moved to cyber a couple of years ago, and that was more of a horizontal move rather than a sort of an upwards promotion. And I'm so glad that I did that. So yeah, hopefully there's a few little bits of advice you can take away from that.
There's a lot of bits of advice I can take away from that. I'm taking that away for myself too, as a reminder that your path and trajectory can go in a lot of different directions, and also seeing opportunities, right? By being able to see the university and see something as your potential in your future, all of a sudden you started to imagine that for yourself, and it unlocked new ideas. So thank you for that. With that, we are moving very, very quickly along this. It's time for my favorite part of the hour anyway. Maybe it'll be yours, maybe not. But some of you on the line might already have some ideas in mind. We started to hear that. Thank you for those of you brave enough to share your drawings of your ideas for the future. You're working in finance. I got it. That's awesome. And some of you may not be as sure. So this is a chance for us to get into some smaller breakout rooms. In a moment, Alex is going to whisk you into various rooms. You might have to just click a button when she assigns you to a breakout room to accept that you're going to go there. When you enter that room, we're going to ask you to just quickly introduce yourself to our fabulous AIG guests and our G4G team members who will also be in that room with you. Share a little bit about your passions and feel free to ask any question or challenge you'd like. We're lying to you a little bit on this slide only because we're running a little bit late. So you're going to have 10 minutes in your breakout rooms. Alex, is there anything else? We've pasted these in case you forget what you're doing. Introduce yourself, share your passions, ask your challenge or career question. That is also pasted in the chat, which you'll be able to see when you go into your breakout rooms, just in case you forget what we're doing. Alex, anything else we should know or take us away?
Absolutely. All right, guys, you'll be able to come back to this main session at any time if you have any issue, but you'll be automatically moved and you'll have about 60 seconds to return, and there'll be a clock at the top. So have a great moment.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining and for coming back. I got to participate in one session here, but I'm just curious. I know we're over our time, but how was that? Did you learn anything? Were there any aha moments? Is anyone, yeah, I see some thumbs up happening from our friends at Channing School. Thank you. Any big, great unlocking of ideas? Maybe? Anyone, it was really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, feel free to type in the chat. Feel free to unmute. Feel free to also just wave, whatever is most valuable for you. Thank you all for this. I'm going to race us right to the finish and say that since we have a lot of people here on camera still, and I know it's a little hard to see some of you Channing School folks there, but I can see you all. And we're kind of silly here at Greenlight for Girls, if you haven't quite noticed that yet. If you would be willing to humor me, can we do just one last closing before we say goodbye to each other silly photo to have a memory of our time together today? So feel free to take silly however you define it, but maybe we'll do a fun silly photo pose so that our dearest Pooja can have a communications memory of our day. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Amazing. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful day and a wonderful time together. Laura, Ellie, Anna, thank you for giving so freely and so much. Feel free to unmute and say thank you. Absolutely.
Oh, so nice to meet you guys.
So lovely to meet you. Thank you to our students joining from all over, and have a wonderful rest of your night.